All right, welcome back. In this segment, we're going to talk about qualifiers. And qualifiers can be really important when you're deciding how to word your premises. Now, keep in mind that with the mode of inference, or the way the reasoning works in the logic bridge, it's not deduction. We don't have some true, false, yes, no, bivalent characteristic of truth of any individual premise. It recognizes that we can have in our minds different degrees of belief of the certainty of the truth of a premise. It also accounts for the fact that new evidence can come along and change our opinion about the strength of a conclusion. It's called defeasible. You don't have to remember that word. But qualifiers are really important. They bring a sense of precision to the premises that you're constructing. So, for example, and here we have some examples of qualifiers. Some, many, most, probably, likely, possibly, generally. So let's look at these two examples here and here. The only difference between these two logic bridge templates is the addition of the qualifier possibly. So in this instance, we have our two premises. Number one, the president has a valid Hawaiian birth certificate. And the number two premise, one who has a valid Hawaiian birth certificate was born in Hawaii. Therefore, our conclusion, the president was born in Hawaii. So an audience's perception of the level of certainty of this premise number one could be 20% out of a total of absolutely certain 100%. And their perception of the second premise in this hypothetical could be 100%. Now that's going to leave us with an overall sense of the level of certainty of the conclusion of 20%, because this is the weakest link, and that always sets the bottom here. Now, here we've taken the same two premises and we've added the word possibly. So the first one is, the president possibly had a valid Hawaiian birth certificate. Premise two, anyone who possibly had a valid Hawaiian birth certificate was possibly born in Hawaii, which leads to the conclusion the president was possibly born in Hawaii. Well, here, which is likely, that when you add a qualifier to your premise, you're increasing the level of certainty that this premise is true. And in this instance, that allows the conclusion to increase in its level of certainty. In the world, we're using these, what you could call premises that begin with any, all, or once, are generalizations. The power of adding qualifiers is it recognizes that the likelihood of an absolute truth of any particular generalization often needs to be tempered by the reality that it doesn't apply to every instance, or the likelihood of it happening all the time doesn't exist. So whenever you're creating your arguments and you're writing your premises, always consider the use of qualifiers to be more precise in your reasoning. Thank you.